Good morning, boys and girls. Guess what? It's windy, but we're on the air recorder navigation and it's always windy. That's why I find it boring. We've dog on boat. Hello, dog on boat. Dog on boat. Marley, hello. Say hello to your fans. Alright, I didn't finish yesterday's video because I was just cold and went for a snooze and then forgot and then just published it, not realising it didn't have a happy ending. So yes, coming up to a rather sad place in a little while. We're coming up to what was Kellingley Colliery. Some mates of mine will know this because they've urbexed it. I fucking hate that term. They've explored the remains of what was once the last deep coal mine in the entire country. Years ago, when we first started doing this stretch, Kellingley was in full swing and there'd be moored along the side of the canal hundreds of what were known as Tom Puddings, little metal floating skips that would be filled with coal and then towed up to Ferrybridge power station, hundreds of them in a row, and now it's just a case of all those jobs gone, the entire community is decimated. It seems strange that we're alright importing coal, but we class it as being dirty. Well, okay, we'll build more fucking windmills then, alright, and then employ people to do jobs that... Oh, I'm just going to rant. I'm not going to rant. I'm not going to rant. Anyway, that's it. We're off towards Leeds. Over there on the spoil tip, it looks like a hill. Ouch! It's not. That's the spoil tip from Kellingley Colliery. Oh, it's windy. And that's Kellingley Colliery. Are you steering?
Yeah, I got it.
Oh god, it can only get worse. There's that huge spoil heap which they're digging down into because it'll be worth a few bob on that. Not sure if this is recording. So we have in the background the power station. Over there, Kellingley Colliery, and then in the middle, fields and fields with hundreds of thousands of solar panels. Literally hundreds of thousands of solar panels, as far as the eye can see, growing. Fields growing power. How weird is that? This wharf along here is the Kellingley Colliery wharf. When we first started doing this trip up to Leeds from Sheffield, all the way along here, as far as almost down to where the bridge is, would just be hundreds and hundreds of what were known as Tom Puddings. And Tom Puddings were kind of like floating skips that they'd load the coal into from the colliery here, and they'd take them then up to Ferrybridge power station. And it's a very sobering thought now. Oh, there's a boat. Look, we're not alone. Hooray! Very sobering thought now that the hundreds of jobs that were there and the deep mining and everything is now, that's it. It's gone forever. It's a thing of the past. And in a way that's good, but in another way it's not, because we've seen it in Yorkshire and Nottinghamshire and Derbyshire. You take those communities away, those communities are solely dependent on coal. What do you replace them with? There's only so many call centres and Sports Direct bloody distribution centres that you can get away with. So we need to reinvent the idea of what, you know, what are we going to be selling? What are we going to be producing? And anyway, so yeah, all the Tom Puddings would have been lined up here. There's a boat, and I'm going to finish this little bit of video with this sign that we're coming up to, because it's quite ironic, and it's a sign that I always look at every time I come up here and think, yeah, how wrong could you have been? And this is the sign now. Oops, that's it, get the sign. There's boat. Nottingley. And that over there at the end, that's a Sheffield keel. That's the same size, even though it looks huge, it's the same size as Olin Watter, as is that. Sheffield keel was a particular type of design. Maximum length would have been 61.5 foot, although generally these days it's worked out to 60 foot. Not sure why. It's a nice little boat yard this. It's got more of a working feel to it. Now we've just come from round there. If we'd have gone down there, there's another lock, and that's where you go up towards Selby. If we were going to York, you'd go up via Selby and out onto the Great Ouse. We've done it once up to Selby. Selby's a nice canal, but last time we were there, the police were fishing a body out. Chinaman went missing, and yeah, there's a sad consequence of the drugs trade. It was actually related. He was actually Vietnamese. So it's actually related to someone who'd spent some money in a grow shop in Sheffield. So awful story, but yeah, fished him out of the Selby Canal. But this is Nottingley. Nottingley's lovely, and Nottingley is the Lee bit of Kellingley Colliery. It was made up of names of two towns where the workers would be drawn from. And Nottingley, it's just beautiful, but again, it's one of those, the only purpose of Nottingley really was the pit. This was the reason for being, and it's a lovely little stretch down here, but not, you know, it's not really, they haven't made the most of it. Probably because there's no interest in doing so, which is a shame. Now, in years gone by, what would happen is you'd moor your boat up there, and they'd just pour faggots straight into the boat, and the great faggot ferriers of Yorkshire. Sorry, I'm talking bollocks now. That's where they would have loaded boats anyway. Faggots are good. And again, still in Nottingley, it's just lovely. It's beautiful. It's a lovely, lovely little town. And the people who live here have that kind of Yorkshire spirit, which I recognised in Sheffield many years ago. When I first went to Sheffield, it were pretty glum things were grim. People hadn't been paid for a long time, and the miners' strike was really sort of kicking in. And it's kind of like the same in Nottingley now. There's a grim overshadow to the place, but people are still really optimistic, and they'll make the best of the situation they find themselves in. And it's a beautiful little town, and it's a shame that something equally as beautiful can't be done to make it profitable again. I'm not sure what that is, but I mean, just look, this is lovely. This is absolutely lovely. It's idyllic. So people of Nottingley, I salute you, because you got some spirit there, and it's a beautiful little town. Anyone who says otherwise hasn't been here. It's lovely. Right, enough. See you at Ferrybridge. How pleasant is that? Look, and a boat coming the other way. And this is still in Nottingley. It's lovely. A beautiful little place this is. Doesn't look like this boat's going to slow down, but there you go. This is a nice, interesting bit. This is the last stages of Nottingley. And again, when we started doing this trip, all of this over here was derelict, like hopelessly derelict. And we watched over the years them build this little housing estate here. And the sad thing, as far as I'm concerned, and these seem like nice houses, and they got balconies that overlook the canal, and they got this lovely wharf down here, and yet the whole thing's separate. That is separate from that, and it's almost as if they've kind of turned their back on the, well, literally, on the canal. You could have a load of boats moored down there. These gardens could open up onto the bank there, and it'd be beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So this whole development, we've seen this spring up, and it's not integrated at all into the beautiful canal. And alright, it's a little bit overcast at the moment today, but believe me, when the sun shines, it is absolutely gorgeous down here. Like I said, this is the last part now of Nottingley, and as we come round here, we get an amazing glimpse of the power station. Now, coming from Sheffield, I actually missed the Twin Towers, and also up at Barnby Dun, where we used to moor there were some cooling towers, and I think they're a beautiful remnant of something that I think we've lost. And okay, some people say they're ugly, but I like them. So there we go. Nottingley, do something with your waterfront. It could be amazing, it could be beautiful. You could own that and make it into something brilliant. And yeah, Ferrybridge Power Station. And this is where we now leave the navigation. We go onto the River Aire after we go through that floodlock. That's a floodlock down there. And then we're out onto the River Aire. So we've now left Nottingley and we're out on the River Aire. It's really quite serene. It's beautiful, I love it. And then you look over there and you just see the top of the cooling towers. It's a great mix. I like this particular stretch from here up to Castleford. It's really idyllic. Some nice wide stretches. And we go past Ferrybridge Power Station. I'll show you where the Tom Puddings would have been offloaded. This area is steeped in industrial history. It's beautiful. I love it. Now, here's a rare treat for me because I'm on I'm on pointy end, or the bow, as we call it in nautical terms. I have a woman driving, so we could quite feasibly crash into anything. No, I didn't mean that. Right, this is Ferrybridge, and this time last year it was almost in the same place. It's one of my favourite things to shoot in black and white because the textures work really well. But today, boys and girls, I'm doing video for your delectation. Now that over there, there's a little wharf in there that the fleet of Tom Puddings would then go through there, and that's where they would offload the coal from Kellingley Colliery, which we saw about an hour ago. You saw a couple of seconds ago, I should imagine. And then it would go all the way up there and then be burnt to make electricity. And it's a little timepiece, that. There's no reason for that to be there any longer. And I keep meaning to contact the facilities manager there and say, can we actually sail through where the Tom Puddings would have been offloaded? Because you can actually there is still a fairly serviceable wharf through there. I know they probably say no because we need to do a health and safety risk assessment and a method statement and get special insurance and sprinkle a circle of salt around your boat just in case Satan decided to sink on our property. But this here is the entrance to that wharf. I think one day, I just might try and sail through it. I won't, obviously, because there's probably a chain across. Yes, there will be a chain or two, a barrier to stop us getting in. But that is where they would load the Tom Puddings. Unload, sorry, the Tom Puddings. Should we sail through there on the way back? I think people should vote. I'd love to sail through there just to see that's where they offloaded the Tom Puddings. Very windy on River Air, but isn't it lovely? That's a beautiful little stretch. We're just coming up to Castleford. Arrived at Castleford. Just as we've come around there, we saw someone going into the lock, so I tooted the horn. They totally ignored. I just went in, so they've wasted an entire lock full of water because they're so impatient. I'll find out what the boat is and I'll have a word with them. I've sent Charlotte up there and I said she needs to tell them that that's not on. That's a complete waste. These are huge locks. These will take tankers, and it's really inconsiderate. And there's a boat moored on the lock stage, but I mean that's alright, I can deal with that. But wasting an entire lock full of water just because they can't wait, and it was less than a minute for me to get from there to there. I hate people like that. They make boating far, far less fun. Now these are the inconsiderate people who wasted a whole lock full of water. that one. Means of escape. And then we're just totally rude to Charlotte. So I think we'll have a little chat. Just around this bend is Lemonroyd, and that is a big lock. And this Lemonroyd lock, and these posts here, all of those posts were put in for when the oil tanker used to come up here. It used to, many years ago, it used to be an oil tanker called the Rix Owl. Oh, it's boat. And the Rix Owl, huge thing, kept bashing into the side there, so they put those them sticks there so that they could see not to bump into the edge. It's not what you want with 700 tons of fuel on board. So quite luckily this lock will now be in our favour. By that I mean empty. That's where the oil tanker used to go up. Before then it would go through Lemonroyd lock to the top, but I think they put a different piping system in so it didn't have to go through there. So that then left this lock. This is one of the big locks on the Air and Calder. You'll see just how big in a minute. Well, hopefully this should be an empty lock that shouldn't take too much draining at all. We should be able to sail straight in. Hey! And then we'll see how big it is. That's a big lock. Now if someone had shut the gates on us as we was just approaching here, I would have been very, very angry, as that would have been an incredible waste of water and power. I always just check, because even though I know there's no one behind, you can never be totally sure, because they come out of nowhere, these boaters, you know. This for a lock. I think this is the deepest lock now as we go into Leeds. I've got a video somewhere where I did a time lapse going Castleford to Leeds. I'll try and dig it out and stick a link. Right, back in a minute. And about 10 minutes later, we're out. It is an impressive lock, and would have been with the oil tanker in there. This is Lemonroyd Marina. Onward. That over there is the oil refinery where the Rix Owl would have used to go before they put the other mooring on the other side of there on the river. That's Lemonroyd lock down there. This is the old oil refinery, and that's the wharf where the oil tankers would moor up, and here is where the oil tanker would turn around. And they were big tankers, you know, proper pucker, sea-going oil tankers coming right almost into the heart of Leeds. And the same one, or the same type, goes into Rotherham. I'll try and get some footage of that on the way back. Onward! I've often wondered when coming up here, we just passed, well, a little while ago, come through Fishpond Lock before that Whittlesford. Oh, and incidentally, the inconsiderate idiots who locked us out, not locked us out, but you know, closed the lock gates on us, are moored at Whittlesford. I don't know if that's their mooring. They was moored on one of the permanent moorings. They might just be clueless and decided to stay there, or that might be their mooring. But I won't forget them in a hurry, I know that. It's just, I really hate inconsiderate people. I've been wondering about this. Alright, now come back to that. What a lovely little kind of like wharf this is. And I've often wondered why this hasn't been developed into some kind of leisure moorings or something, because it is lovely. It is beautiful. And then over there there's, well, it's not quite as beautiful over there, but there's some logs. Logs. But it's lovely around here. I just don't know why it hasn't been adopted by nice boaters to be a nice boaters place. Like these are like Glades. This is Leeds, guys. Leeds. Well, nearly in Leeds anyway. As good as anything in Leeds. It's beautiful. But it would have to be nice boaters, not inconsiderate. And I don't know what it is. Is there something about the world that it has changed and people are just, I don't know, selfish, more selfish than ever before? They're just really rude and arrogant and ignorant and just horrible. Why? It's so much nicer if people are nicer. Yeah. Right, so, pootling along. I love this. This is my favourite speed, by the way. About 1.5 miles, 2 miles an hour. Just bimbling along like this. They're building something around here, but if you look over there, just look. Get that. Lovely. That's bobbins, that is. Underneath bridges are really good for graffiti. Now just a little bit further along from where I did that bit with those moorings, and we're near a sewage works. I'll tell you what, that's a good job. Videos don't convey smell. It's particularly ripe today. Oh God. Anyway, as I said earlier, or at some point, choking on it, you get all different sorts of boats on a network, and believe it or not, people live in stuff like that, which is fair enough, I suppose. And then you get these converted commercial boats, and this is one of them. That's not, I don't think it's as big as some of the sandbars. That's more like a Humber keel, I think. I'm not actually very good at naming those type of you know, whatever, but I think that's what that is. And that gives you a fair bit of living space in there, if you think about it. It's not a huge amount longer than this, but awful lot more usable space. I think we're coming up to this place called Thwaite Mills, which is a historical centre of some description with a watermill or something or other. Because all around here there's little bits of river and waterways and things. And again, all these moorings are relatively new. So a few, hang on, what does that say? Yep, that's it, it is. Welcome to Fate Mills. But years ago, when we first started doing this, all there was a load of signs saying, "Oi, no more in here, don't moor here. Whatever you do, don't moor here." So that's changed, thankfully, and it is quite nice. Oh, now that, I'm fairly sure. No, I'm not actually fairly sure. I did think that was a Leeds-Liverpool short boat, what's called a Leeds-Liverpool short boat, because we had one running out of Sheffield, A39. It's one of these historic old working boats. So it might not be. It'd be something or other of historical significance, I'm sure. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I'm not. But how lovely is that anyway? Beautiful, lovely bit of waterway stuff, history and whatever. That might be a humber kill, but it might not. I don't know. I wish I knew. I wish I was more knowledgeable. Anyway, we're nearly in Leeds. We're in Leeds. Lock number 1 of the Aaron Calder navigation. It's quite posh as Leeds. This is the Royal Armouries. And they've got lots of lots of sirens that make it sound like you're in Milan or something. Yeah, so welcome to Leeds. Now, any minute now, one of those little water taxis is going to come around. He's going to want to get in there, so I'm going to have to nudge right up against these gates, just so he's got some room. Oh God, why has Leeds got so much totty? It's so not fair. Fucking hell, there's more over there. That's enough. Marley, be quiet. So here we are. Granary Wharf, Leeds again. He backed in as we did last time. Oh. This was once a dry dock, and the problem with mooring in there is there's a little shelf that you bang against all night. So we moor here. It's not a bad little place to moor, is it? There's more totty. I can't believe that. I'm shallow. Granary Wharf. A number of years ago, just a little bit further down, don't know if we can see it from here. That's the lock we came up in a number of years ago. Just down there, some friends and I were told off quite severely, actually, by the police for playing frisbee across the canal with frozen pizzas. So, in memory of Ken Roy and the rather ludicrous Howard Marks, I always celebrate that particular fact when we're here. It was a long time ago, and we were young and impetuous, or younger and impetuouser, if there is such a word. Marley, say hello to your fans. Right, anyway, tonight, because we've had such an energetic day, we've got a long walk to the restaurant. This is where we're eating tonight. It's a radizio called Fazenda, and that's where we're going to stuff our faces full of really healthy vegan stuff. It's not really. Google it. Alright, so that's it. That's day 3 done.